All right, guys, the auction's about to start. The next footage you're gonna see is probably me bidding. I won't be addressing the camera as much once we get into it because I'll be like in the thick of the battle. But hopefully we're gonna come out with some awesome games, and hopefully you can pick up some really cool strategy tips or even kind of things to copy from free play, how we get so many awesome games. So here we go, we're about to dive into it. You might recognize him from the video game or the arcade trivia podcast. This is Josh. He's the lead tech at Free Play Arcade, and he always accompanies me on these auctions to try to like keep me sane while I go crazy on bidding on stuff.
If you need to go get a truck, folks,
track how much we spent.
And also, yeah, to tell me how much money we've spent.
then go get your truck.
I generally lose sight of that. They just sold a old Coke vending machine. It's not working at all. It does look like it used to be a refrigerator, but the refrigeration's been removed. They got $300 for it. I bet there's people on the internet that think that's a really good deal. I don't know. I'm an arcade game expert, not a Coke expert.
Oh no, are they not selling package with them?
There were 3 control panels, I think 2 Miss Pack original control panels and a Galaga original control panel taken off the machine, but with the original buttons, which those are relatively valuable. I didn't actually get that one. No. I actually went about $20, $25 more than I wanted to. So I was mildly relieved when someone else took it from me. Which is something that people hate against bidding against me, because I normally have my number and once I hit it, I just stop and they don't understand why I'm not kind of drawn into a bidding war. So fun fact about the gambling machines at our Richardson location, the city council passed a law prohibiting us from having anything like that, which we didn't want to anyways. But if you go to a lot of gas stations in the city of Richardson, you'll find these weird gambling machines at the back. And so it's kind of strange that they are both, I mean, they're generally illegal in the state of Texas. The city of Richardson said we can't have them, yet every auction has like 4 or 5 or 10 even. So I know some people do buy them for their monitors, but often the screens get burned really fast because they just have squares for cards and everything. So maybe that's why they get bought here. I don't know. Definitely illegal. Definitely one of the weirder parts of the auction. Yeah, so they've got two new old stock 19-inch monitors. I don't know if they're standard res or not, but I bet they are. They're really at the end of the CRT, right before the CRT ban, but they look nice and they look brand new. Take them both, yeah. Oh. All right, so these are the monitors we bought. We were talking about. They're brand new, and that's just rare in and of itself. We don't even know if we're going to be able to use them yet. It looks like the monitors that came in the Revenge from Mars pinball, which is a VGA monitor normally used to hook up like a computer type signal. And it's a different signal than the older arcade games use, but it's the right size. We'll be able to do something with them, and just any opportunity we get to buy a new monitor, we're gonna buy it. So here's what's cool. I mean, when you open up an arcade, the monitors generally are caked in dust and everything. And this is, obviously, it's brand new. The scary thing is all the digital components down there and the VGA cable right here. And we were not able to find a manual on the internet, but it uses an original style flyback. That's generally a good signal that the parts are going to be okay to find. Given, I mean, still super rare, but at least possible. So we're pretty stoked. Hopefully we're able to use them in one of the old arcades and bring them completely back to life with a brand new monitor. Now things are about to get really fun. We're done with all the boring stuff, the parts, the gambling machines. We're on the real arcades. You're about to see us bidding on a lot of stuff. All right, guys, so here's the interesting thing. This will probably never make it to the floor, but I love weird cocktails. So it's a Moon Cresta, it's a Nichibitsu. It's a really cool game. I don't know what we're gonna do with it, but I loved it too much to not buy it. So it's a mild overpay, but we're actually struggling with Centipedes right now to get them out. And so we're buying cocktails to try to figure out some of our smaller places like Denton what we're gonna do long term. So they don't have a Centipede yet. This cocktail might be perfect. We probably would have normally stopped at 450, 500, but since we have such a perfect use for it, I reached a little bit and went for it.
Down 5, Corey, 500, down 50, 600, I'm at 650, I'm at 600, I'm getting out here, not 650. I'm at 600, I'm with Corey, right? It's 600, I'm getting out here, not 650.
So I think I was bidding against a guy who owns it, which is something interesting in Texas. You're allowed to bid on your own stuff. And so he probably had a certain price. 600 for a Space Invaders Cabaret is not bad. No, I'm out.
I'm at 625.50.
So that was my max, and I think the guy who owns it might be trying to squeeze a little bit, and so this is cool. It's a Space Invaders, it's working all the way, and it's got the right multi-kit in it. I'm gonna wait and see if we get any bids, and hopefully it drops into like the 300 or 400 level. There it goes.
Now, 500, 550, 600, 600.
Look at the
I'm at about 600 now, 50. I'm at 650 now, 7. I'm at 650.
If we needed Space Invaders, that's actually a really good one. But we have a Space Invaders at every location right now. And though it's a really cool classic, and we celebrated it recently with that Space Invaders event, they're in a bidding war right now, and it's getting crazy. I think they're at 800. I mean, that's not even a terrible price given the condition, but you don't know what's actually wrong with it. You don't know what's been done. So 500, 450 would have been like a really solid buy price. But as they get in there, you got to remember they're adding 20% here. So they're talking about $1,000 right now, which to the right person, it's totally worth that. And it did seem to be working all original, working with the right multi-board. So that's not a bad purchase if that's the game you really want. So generally, we'll find that the auctioneers spend more time messing around with the speaker than most other things, trying to get it working right, because they use like a radio speaker to cast their voice. But I've never been to an auction, doesn't matter which auction company, that's been able to get it quite right. They need like a PA system or something.
I'm at 750, now 75. I'm at 750, doesn't get down here, not 775. So 750, 114.
So that was kind of like a lazy purchase for me because it's loaded with all the games, and we're a little short on some of our play choice doubles. So it's definitely worth that in parts. Probably we're the only people that's worth 750 too, because it's kind of rough. But we need them, so it's really easy for me to go ahead and jump in it. I was hoping to get it more like 650, 700, but 750 is not a big deal. So this is a really interesting game. This is probably a knockoff kind of space shooter, but no one has ever really seen it. It's popped up on different Craigslist ads. There are people here specifically to buy this game. If it was my perfect game, this would be absolutely something I'd buy for my personal collection. It doesn't make sense at all to have it free play because it's not necessarily a great game. It's just really, really rare, and no one really knows the history of it. And they're trying to get me a bid on it right now. No. So 31 to 50 is really cool. I'll probably regret not buying it because that's probably the only one we'll ever see. But no one knows the provenance. No one knows where this came from. So it'll probably go to one of the Kansas City museums.
You and me? Yes, sir. 425.
Is it the only Galaga in there?
Is it really?
I think so. I don't see another one. Only dedicated Galaga in the building.
Realize that.
Yeah! JR, I'm over here. Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
And 700.
114 to Corey.
114 to
Mickey Moody, where'd you go? So Cedric and Clark had Mickey family the rest of the day.
Yeah.
I hope the Galaga's real. I don't know.
Land of the JR Gillespie's.
If it is fine. If not, whoops. Obviously, we have Galagas all over our place, but we find that for our Arcade Anywhere project, if you put a Galaga out and any other cool retro game, they'll both do pretty well together. So we've been buying as many Galagas as possible. We don't know if that one's real. We have more Galaga boards. We're hoping it's a real board. If so, it's a fine purchase. If not, I definitely overpaid, but we just didn't have time to evaluate everything. And that one was on the whole time. So we'll see. Hopefully it's real. They make some really good knockoff boards that have fooled even us before. Frenzy is like the, I mean, it's the sequel to Berzerk. It plays a little smoother. It almost looks like it's using the dual boot multi-kit. So yeah, look, he's got Berzerk and he's gonna sell it with Frenzy as well. Absolutely. So I mean, it's old. It's like the original shooter, like first person shooter almost. It's like you're going through just a series of mazes and you have to shoot your way out. So it's really, really cool. And it looks as primitive as possible, but it's a ton of fun. So like Frenzy and Berzerk, we try to have in every single arcade. Hopefully it goes cheap because it doesn't get very much play, but it's really cool. Yeah, so it has Berzerk, but they just said he just put the Frenzy boards in it. Alright, so we're out right here. Just because, though I love the game, I'm out. I love the game and I'd love to have it in the collection, but since we already have Berzerks at most of our locations, it doesn't really have an obvious home, and I think that they're going a little high on the price here. Not that I'm not extremely tempted to bid right now. So these Star Wars trilogies use a medium res monitor, medium resolution that's somewhat difficult to repair, and the parts are getting more and more obscure. And though it's possible to get them looking good, we find that they were just kind of weak tubes that lose colors that don't necessarily come back with the rejuvenator. So this one looks like it has a couple weak colors. It's starting to haze and fuzz. We've seen this on these monitors before. So even though we have Trilogy at our Richardson arcade right now and our Denton arcade, we're kind of staying away from them, given that long term I think they're just going to kind of die off until we find a different monitor solution for them. So this is a Untitled Polaris. It's kind of a goofy submarine game that's pretty much like a halfway between Space Invaders and a Galaga, but it's rare and the cabinet looks pretty nice.
I'm with you. 525. Anybody else? 525. So 500. 140.
So there are plenty of people that are probably watching this and see us pay $500 for Polaris that are like, wow, in my neck of the woods, it's like a $200 game. The problem is you just don't see them very often. So our chance to buy a working Polaris is so rare. We're definitely willing to go a couple hundred over what some might ask. It's dedicated, it's in the original cabinet. It's got all the proper artwork. So it's relatively rare. We had to go for it. So you'll see that happen a couple times during this auction. Not just us, people paying more, but we're already here. We already have the truck here. If we saving $100 doesn't really help us when we want the game. So we'll see how it goes. It looks like the Polaris is on some pieces of wood. So we'll have some work to do once we get to the shop, but we're pretty excited about the purchase. All right, so right now they're in the middle of like kind of the junk that we're not interested in the auction. Coming up, we have that big line of room cabs that we talked about. They've just got some really weird, obscure boards in them, really just interesting stuff. And then the big prize, the pinball, where you're gonna see some $4,000, $5,000, $6,000 price tags coming up. We'll see. We haven't seen this much pinball, and often when pinball comes up, a lot of people are a little low on money. Some people come here just for pinball, but the people who are big buyers, they might have jumped on some games that they weren't planning on purchasing and kind of drained their wallets. So you never know how it's going to go. We're going to see some really cheap racing games. It doesn't look like a lot of people here are here to buy racing games. So we've got some board purchases coming up, pinball coming up in a little bit. But for right now, we're taking a break. I really wish we had food right now. I'm starving, but I'm going to gut it out. We'll get through it, and then we'll go get some food.